To the House. The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
Nikki Kay.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to be speaking on the Mount Maunganui Borough Reclamation and Empowering Act Repeal Bill. Can I start by acknowledging the member who has just spoken, the member for Wairaki, and I also want to acknowledge the Honourable Simon Bridges, who I know did work hard and I know has had a number of discussions with the previous member on this piece of legislation. The Honourable Simon Bridges is a very hard-working member for Tauranga. He has a small majority of about 17,000, and I know there are other members in this House that care deeply about Tauranga. I just want to touch on a few things that have been previously said by the member before me. The first thing is that this bill is being obviously sponsored by the Tauranga District Council, but also with support by Ngā Pautiki. Because I think we need to acknowledge in this House the speech that we have just heard from Tuaroa Flavel about some of the cultural issues that have obviously been involved in some of the background to this bill coming to the House, but also to acknowledge something that the member just said. And he just said that this is a bit of a point, it's a positive point, that we can see a good relationship between the Council and Ngā Pautiki, and that's a really positive thing for the future. And when I think of the Mount, and I have visited there and I have done public meetings with the Honourable Simon Bridges, I think of a place of the future. And this is a city that is growing. We know that it's gone from, I think, something like 48,000 to 103,000 in a very short period of time. And what's really important for the future is that we are able to look to the future and really ensure that there is good community infrastructure there. And actually what this bill, that's what's very relevant with this bill, that we are dealing with wastewater and discharge, because that is actually fundamental to a city being able to develop in the future. But I just acknowledge the member's speech and the cultural issues that have obviously still surround this particular area of land. But the reason we are here is that the Council and Ngā Pautiki have come together along with local MPs to say we need to repeal this bill. And if we look at some of the history in terms of the legislative history, what we see is that the original act was an act to authorise the Mount Maunganui Borough Council to reclaim tidal lands constituting part of the bed of the harbour of Tauranga and to develop such reclaimed land for sewerage and other municipal purposes. The act was then transferred as part of the seabed of Tauranga Harbour to Mount Maunganui Borough Council. It was authorised to be transferred under the Act a total of about 73.5 hectares. The Council only reclaimed about 23.5 hectares. We then saw the authority to reclaim the balance of the area was revoked by the legislation in 1991, so that the Principal Act had no legal effect. But what happened here was during an application process to upgrade Tauranga City Council's wastewater treatment plant, iwi and other stakeholders expressed grievances regarding the scope of the land that could be reclaimed under the Act and the adverse effects, as has already been mentioned by the member, in terms of the wastewater treatment. So where we're at is both the Tauranga City Council and stakeholders concur that we need to repeal the Principal Act, returning the legal status of the land to what it was pre-1975. And we believe on the side of the House that this bill should go to Select Committee. We believe it is appropriate in the context of these grievances and concerns to repeal this legislation. That is why we are here on this side of the House supporting it. But we also believe that, as we have seen with other local bills that have gone through this House, how important it is to have local members of Parliament, like the Honourable Simon Bridges, like Tuaroa Flavel, who really get into the community and talk to people who are involved and affected by situations like this, and ensure that people have their voice heard. Because, as I say, this is, for some people, they will see it as a small piece of legislation, but for other people who have been affected in the past, it is significant for them. And so I just acknowledge the work of local members to bring it to this point. I acknowledge the future of the Mount and the fact that it is a growing city and that some of these issues are integral in terms of community infrastructure and development in the future, and I support this bill to the House.
We move to the 5-minute calls. The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Mr Speaker, I rise to speak on behalf of Labour.